Mystery teams in 2024. I had three other teams that I was going to lead with, but Jesse walked in the room and said we need to lead with Penn State, so let's do it. And he's right. They are a mystery team because on one hand, they've been the model of stability, right below Ohio State and Michigan in the pecking order, but not too far below anyone else. Well, there are questions. We're trying to replace both coordinators here. Now, Manny Diaz left. He went and took the head job at Duke. So who'd they hire? Do you remember? Tom Allen, former head coach at Indiana. He's now the defensive coordinator. They went and got Kansas's offensive coordinator. And so Drew Aller kind of learning a new way of doing things. Everybody's hopeful. Everybody's fingers are crossed up there that their offense can improve. And statistically, it's not going to be that difficult because they were bad last year. Trust me, someone who stood on the sideline for the Ohio State and Michigan games, now where they could not move it to save their lives. Statistically, it's not that difficult to see an uptick in production, but there are a lot of big pieces they have to fill. And that's college football. So you say that about a lot of teams, but I think the stability of the program is not to be questioned. Just that's what God made spring football for, as Meemaw would say. There are a lot of positions and holes that have to be filled. Oklahoma, I think, is a big mystery team in 2024. They went from 6-7 in Venable's first year to 10-3 last year. All right, so in fantasy land, where progress is linear, you go from 6-7 to 10-3. Well, the logical next step is the playoff, right? Well, Vegas has their over-under win total at 7.5, so they don't think so. Why is that? Well, progress is not always linear, firstly. Secondly, having the 8th best odds in the SEC this year just means it's a very competitive conference that they're joining. And number two, that offensive line is a huge question. Probably pound for pound among contenders, one of the biggest questions in all of college football is Oklahoma's offensive line this coming year. But they're good at quarterback. Jackson Arnold, I've actually been in a strange fight on Twitter with like 5 people about how good Jackson Arnold is. Because I don't know what the ammunition is. Like, he hasn't started, which we say about every guy who's a freshman or a sophomore. But be that as it may, we'll see him. We saw him in the bowl game. We'll see him full-time this fall. Good at wide receiver. It's just like you got to ask yourself, the recruiting and the portaling that they've done, it's been at a very high level. Do you believe in the strength of the program, or do you believe that one position group could be an Achilles heel that ultimately cost them several games this year? That's what makes them a mystery team. Next up, Louisville. Louisville, there is a 2023 Louisville out there in college football this upcoming year. I don't think it's Louisville. But what I mean by that is, this time last year, we were telling you, look at this schedule. And Jeff Brom, we think, for the record, Jeff Brom may be the most underrated major head coach in college football. Just our internals here suggest that. So we think the world of Jeff Brom as a caliber head coach. Just the caliber he is, perceptionally, we think he's top 15 in the country, pound for pound. And he's not perceived that way, but we think he is. So on one hand, you got a dynamite head coach there. But on the other hand, coming off an ACC championship game appearance, 10-4 season, Tyler Shuck coming in at quarterback, really not been able to be healthy at various points in his career. So you got to count on that. They are portaling in massive amounts of guys, and all that's just got to gel. Like, that's the difference in a team. We always use the analogy of a pallet of wood and a stack of bricks and a house. Those are not the same things. You got to take the materials and turn them into a house. Well, they got to take all these portal additions and turn them into a team. And unlike last year, they do not have the benefit of the most workable schedule in the world. But I'll tell you this, over at FanDuel right now, Louisville's over-under win total is 8.5. And I think for some people who don't know how to interpret the totals market, you may think that's low. That's a pretty high number. Because unlike typical fans, especially in preview magazine season, who only think about glass half full, best case scenarios, a Vegas over-under win total has to take into account worst case scenario as well. Also, they have to bake in the fact that you're probably not going to be injury-free. They don't know where the injuries are coming, but almost no team goes through the season, and at the end, their starting 22 looks exactly like the magazine said in August. So they have to take all that into account. So that's all baked in, and Louisville still has an over-under win total of 8.5. So it's pretty good. Mystery team, nonetheless. And lastly, how do I not put Colorado on here? Colorado is the definition of a mystery team. I mean, Deion Sanders and Colorado are the evergreen mystery team. They went 4-8 last year. They're talking playoff this year. And I'm looking and I'm seeing their schedule as they join the Big 12, and it's a nightmare. And at FanDuel, their over-under win total is 6.5. There are warts on this team, but at the same time, so much about them was unknown last year, and then they come out the gates on fire. I left the word "of" out of it totally. They come out the gates on fire. Now, they faded down the stretch, but I think they still delivered more candidly than a lot of people may have expected them to last year. They imported a new offensive line. Shedeur Sanders, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Travis Hunter is one of the best football players in the country. What do they have around them is going to be obviously a big question that we followed last year. We followed again this year. I didn't know that, Jesse. My bad. So they got 5.5 instead of 6.5. I had 6.5 written down. Man, that would have been used against me on future out-of-context clips on the internet. So 5.5. Over or under for those of you in the comment section. I'll leave it at that.